What's going on, everyone? Thrift Barringer here live on GIAA.TV, presented by the Beck Center. We're on GIAA.TV, the GIAA Facebook page, and the GIAA YouTube channel. Thrift Barringer, Richard Holdridge. We are literally a week away from crowning soccer and baseball state champions. We're going to talk about that, update the brackets, and more. But Big Rich, how you been, man?
Oh, man, I have been fantastic. I can't believe we've got baseball and soccer. Most of the schools in the GIAA had their graduation last week, and we still got spring sports going on, semifinals for both soccer and baseball. And I can't wait to talk about the brackets.
Yeah, we're going to talk about all of them. We got our soccer contributor, Iain Jones. He'll be joining us to talk about the soccer brackets. Well, me and you will dissect here in just a little bit the baseball semifinals that are coming up, what happened last week in the quarterfinals. And then we're going to end the show with Tommy Marshall, who will talk about the two locations of the soccer and baseball state championships that we've been promoting for the last couple of weeks. Next Tuesday and Wednesday, they'll be at Stratford Academy. If you've never been there, that campus is absolutely stunning. It gives a very much a college feel when driving around there. And they'll be hosting the soccer state championships. I look forward to being there next Tuesday and Wednesday. And then we're going to have a quick turnaround because the next day, next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, May 29th through the 31st, they're going to be at the brand new and incredible Synovus Park. It's a AA Columbus Clingstones, AA affiliate of the Atlanta Braves minor league baseball system, and it is breathtaking. You are going to be in for a treat. This is going to be a top-of-the-line, first-class operation. And to be honest, did you expect anything different when it's ran by the GIAA like Tommy Marshall, Kent Copeland, and, of course, Clint Morgan? Yeah,
the GIAA does it big, just like last year. With the soccer championships, I was there at Stratford Academy last year, and what a beautiful facility, just top of the notch. And it's a soccer stadium. Stratford has their own soccer stadium.
Yep.
And it's just got that feel, that great environment. And Stratford Academy did a great job putting it on last year. It was a little different. Last year, they had the 4A classifications on Friday, and they had all the other classifications on Saturday. So they pretty much had nothing but 4 matches on Saturday. They had 2 on Friday. This time, they're going to have it on Tuesday and Wednesday. And just the girls' championships for all classifications are going to be on Tuesday. The boys' classification is going to be on Wednesday. And they did a little bit different. They wanted to get the soccer and the baseball championships a week ahead of time because they didn't want to have to deal with graduations and with rain and makeup dates. And we had some issues last year with Brookstone was graduating on a Saturday. They couldn't play the baseball game on the Saturday because the championship was in Macon, and they had to play it on that Monday. And so they should have no issues. Hopefully, knock on wood, no weather issues. And they do actually have some wiggle room for some makeup days just in case. But we expect these championships to go off without any issues next week.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're going to want to prolong it at all. And that is one of the major reasons why they moved the playoff start back a week later because of the graduation that you just made mention. So we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. We're presented by the Beck Center of Academic and Athletic Success. All state championships are presented by the Beck Center. Thank you to Roger Beck and the Beck Center for what they do for us. Also, thank you to Stan Whitlock, who is kind of an integral part of starting this. And, of course, our boss, who is Tony Morgan. Can't wait to be with those guys, Tony, Brett Taylor, and the crew, as we'll be doing all state championships. I'll literally be calling games from Tuesday all the way through Saturday. It's going to be a busy week, but I love what I do. I love being the voice of the GIAA, and I cannot wait to be there next week. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Do not go anywhere. When we come back, we are going to talk about the baseball brackets. We're going to throw them up there. We're going to let you know what's happening in 1A, 2A, 3A, and 4A as the semifinals start this Friday. And we'll be right back after this on GIAA.TV.
This copyrighted broadcast, presented exclusively on GIAA.TV, is copyrighted by the Georgia Independent Athletic Association, a division of the Georgia Independent School Association, for the private use of our audience. It may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the express written consent of the Georgia Independent School Association.
back to Inside the GIAA. Thrift, Barringer, Big Rich. Thank y'all for watching. You on Facebook, like the Facebook page. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. Like us on Instagram. We put all the news and notes on there. And then specifically go to the GIAAsports.org. That has everything you need, from the rankings, the brackets, the scores, rules and regulations, whatever you can think of, everything GIAA related. The website, I think, is the most organized and best website for all of high school athletics. And listen, I cover in Alabama and Georgia. There is not a better site that gives you more information that is easy accessible like it is with the GIAA, and GIAAsports.org is the name of it. Okay, so let's first start in the 1A classification. And in 1A baseball, Citizens Christian, number 1 seed, they take on Thomas Jefferson in that quarterfinals, and they got a big win in that one as Citizens Christian beats Thomas Jefferson. Westwood pulled off the upset, though, against David Emmanuel. So how about Westwood pulling off the upset? Then another upset. The team that made it to the championship last year had been flirting with number 1 and number 2 all season long. Flint River goes down, and Vidalia Heritage moves on. And then Grace Christian takes down the defending champion, Robert Toombs. So we're going to have a new champion this year in 1A. So Vidalia Heritage and Westwood. 5-4, not big of an upset in Westwood over David Emmanuel, but Vidalia Heritage over Flint River, I don't think many people expected that. What a win for them.
Yeah, absolutely. We had upsets in that AA classification. When a single A classification, we had the upsets. Vidalia Heritage, 7th seed. You talk about a huge upset, beating the 2 seed Flint River, who has practically been number 1 all year. And you also had Westwood, the number 5 seed. Not much of an upset, like you mentioned, beating David Emmanuel. I still think out of this bracket, it's going to be Grace Christian and Citizens Christian in the Class 1A baseball championship. But we're going to have a new champion, and in the rematch of we were hoping for that semifinal rematch between Flint River and Robert Toombs in the semifinals, the rematch of the single A championship last season. But we were not going to get that this year, unfortunately. But congratulations to all the team that advanced to the semifinals. Games 1 and 2 on Friday, game 3, if necessary, on Saturday.
And so seeing how the series played out, Flint River lost both games of Vidalia Heritage. Didn't even go 3. Vidalia Heritage won 9-7 in game 1 and 6-2 in game 2. So big time win by Vidalia Heritage to sweep Flint River. Westwood, on the other hand, also got a big win. So that we got coming up here, Citizens Christian, number 1 team, taking on Westwood, Vidalia Heritage, and Grace Christian coming up next. Now let's go in the 2A classification. And how about Gatewood, the number 1 team all year long in 2A, wins again. And they were able to take care of Brentwood 9-0 and 10-0, and had no problem moving through the number 8 seed. So big win there for Gatewood. Also, Trinity Christian, they took on Georgia Christian, and Trinity Christian, the number 4 seed, was able to move on. So great job there by Trinity Christian as they go to 19-7 on the year. They'll be taking on Gatewood this upcoming weekend. They also swept Georgia Christian 6-4 and 9-2. And then going to the lower part of the bracket, the number 3 seed, which is Edmund Burke. They were not Edmund Burke, the number 2 seed. 3 seed is Edmund Burke. Then number 2 seed, Southwest Georgia. I forgot how they do it on the bracket. Edmund Burke, the 3 seed, did beat Heritage. They go now to 17-4 on the season, and they swept Heritage 6-2 and 4-2. And they will be taking on Southwest Georgia, who we saw a few weeks ago play Brookstone. Southwest Georgia took on Rock Springs. Remember Rock Springs, a new team in the GIAA who's done good really in every single sport. Southwest Georgia, though, goes to 22-2 on the year. They beat Rock Springs 4-3 and 11-4. And there is your 2A semifinal.
Yeah, you're seeing these teams in the quarterfinal not having to play a game 3. That's really going to help their pitching staff in this semifinal matchup. And we're going to get some exciting matchups. I mean, we've got chalk in the semifinals for 2A. We got the defending AA champion Gatewood taking on Trinity Christian out of Dublin, the 1-4 seed. I like Gatewood to advance. We've got Southwest Georgia, Edmund Burke. I like Southwest Georgia to advance. I think we're going to have 1 and 2 in the 2A baseball classification at Synovus Park.
Yeah, and I'm with you on same thing in the 1A. I think Citizens Christian, and it's going to be Grace Christian. Flint River out. We thought it was going to be number 1, 2. I got Grace Christian versus Citizens Christian in the 1A state championship. But I'm with you. Gatewood, Southwest Georgia. You know what? I'm going to go upset. I'm going Edmund Burke. I think Edmund Burke's been playing really good baseball. I think they took care of Heritage, who is a known powerhouse, led by Johnny
Estrada.
Estrada used to be the catcher for the Atlanta Braves, and now Edmund Burke. I'm going to say Edmund Burke versus Gatewood in that 2A classification state championship. Okay, let's move on now to 3A. The number 1 team, Frederica, had no problems as they go to 19-5, and they took down Thrift area handily, Richard, as they didn't lose a game and able to sweep them 11-7 and then 9-3. They will be taking on the number 4 seed, John Millage, as they were able to beat Brookwood. So John Millage, who, again, we expected this. We were picking chalk. I mean, it's hard not to go wrong when you pick chalk. And usually, especially in high school, the better teams usually win, except on occasion, as we saw with Vidalia Heritage over Flint River. But they were able to sweep Brookwood 7-5 and then 13-1. So John Millage and Frederica taking on the top half of the bracket, Richard.
Yeah, I'm calling the upset here. I think John Millage ends up beating Frederica. Just something about John Millage. We're seeing them as a lower seeded. Do you think that possibly John Millage could be undervalued as a seed? Their record doesn't reflect the type of team they are because they play a lot of tough opponents. They're in the same region with 4A, with the likes of Tatnall, Stratford, FPD. This John Millage team, you've seen it with other sports. You've seen it with girls basketball, a much lower seed making a big run. We're seeing that in soccer. And I know that John Millage, I think that they're going to end up pulling off the upset here. But yeah, I like John Millage to move on to the championship.
I think that's a great point, Richard. And now let's talk about Pinewood, the number 2 team, we've seen many times in those state championship matches. And I have a feeling they're probably going to be back again this year.
Yeah,
they were able to beat Valwood, but out of 3, they lost game 1 to Valwood 2-0. The Valiants had a great job. The number 7 seed trying to pull off the upset, but they were not able to after they lost game 2 by 1, 3-2, and something similar we're talking about in 4A. They lost the game 3 winner take all 11-1, and that's where again the better teams. You may get them that first game, but it's hard to beat them 3 games. And usually the best teams have the deeper pitching staff. And you're seeing here with Pinewood, they just had a deeper pitching staff. Valwood ran out of arms, and they lost 11-1 in that matchup. So Pinewood moving on, but Valwood gave them a run for their money. And how about Dominion Christian as they now move on to be 24-6. They're taking on Pinewood, and Dominion Christian swept Piedmont 5-4, 6-5. Both those went down to the wire. How do you see that one playing out? Pinewood and Dominion Christian. I got chalk again, no surprise. I got Pinewood versus Frederica. I really was leaning towards John Millage. John Millage has looked dominant, especially against Brookwood. John Millage is a team that's been in the state championship before. We've seen a John Millage John Millage Pinewood before just a few years ago, but I'm going to go Frederica. I'm going to go Pinewood. What do you got?
I've got Pinewood and John Millage. I think Pinewood, they were the better team. They showed it against Valwood. They've learned a lot of lessons from losing that first game. I don't think that happens against Dominion Christian. I think that they'll have the arms to actually rebound and end up taking that series. So I got Pinewood and John Millage in the championship.
All right, 4A classification. The number 1 team in the entire GIAA right now is FPD. And FPD, led by Coach Moore, 30-3 on the season. And they have just looked dominant by their star, Keon Johnson. But they had a tough time versus Stratford. They won the first game 7-1. The second one came down to the wire. They won that 6-5, able to sweep Stratford, and they take on now Athens Christian. Athens Christian goes to 24-4. The number 5 seed takes down number 4 Bethlehem Christian on the road, and they sweep them 2-1 in game 1, 6-0 in game 2. What do you got with Bethlehem Christian taking on FPD, who has got their 30th win already on the year?
Yeah, FPD has been dominant. Athens Christian coming over from the GHSA, able to take down the number 4 seed Bethlehem Christian. I think that Athens Christians might have been underseeded. I think that they've had a fantastic season. But FPD, they have one of the hottest baseball prospects. I think he's a sophomore.
Yeah, Iain Johnson.
Johnson, he's probably going to be drafted by the Major Leagues.
He's a junior, but
he's only
elite.
a junior.
Yes,
wow.
junior.
So this is a big baseball prospect in the GIAA. FPD knows what it takes to get back to the championship. They were the overall number 1 seed last year, and I think FPD defeats Athens Christian to make it back to the championship.
The number 3 team in the GIAA 4A classification is Tatnall Square. They are 23-6 on the year, and Tatnall Square took down number 11 seed Strong Rock, who upset Calvary, the 6th seed, and they had no problem with Strong Rock. They won 9-2 and 9-6, and that is setting up for what should be, I think, probably the best series out of all the classifications, which is Tatnall and Brookstone. Brookstone, the defending 4A state champions, they had a little bit different. They had an issue. Bullock Academy should never hold their head down. I was actually there for that game, all 3 of those games. They lost game 1 7-0. Sam Hubbard basically was just unhittable, and it looked like Bullock was going to win that series. They went 11 scoreless innings. That means 7 in that game 1, and then the first 4 game 2, it looked like it was about to be upset. A 7 taken down in 2, kind of like we saw with Vidalia Heritage over Flint River in game 1. I mean, in the 1A classification. But Richard, arms like Brennan Neal, who had 11 strikeouts in game 2. And then how about this, guys? Ladies and gentlemen, in the winner-take-all game 3 pressure game, Luke Lowry from Brookstone throws a no-hitter, and Brookstone was able to dominate and run roll Bullock Academy in that winner-take-all 10-0. Fantastic series, great season for Bullock Academy. Now Brookstone will host Tatnall Square this Friday. Man, cannot wait for that. What do you got with that one, Big Rich? As you got Tatnall and Brookstone, could not get more of an evenly matched series.
Well, Brookstone's got a short turnaround because they had a couple of days where they were just sitting back because of the weather. You know, they got rained out on Saturday. They got rained out on Sunday. They had to play on Monday. And so they got a short turnaround, but their pitchers are going to be ready. We learned that the rules are that you can only pitch a pitcher 120 pitches per series. So even though Chanu Kim pitched a lot of pitches and Brendan Neal and Luke Lowry, they didn't use their bullpen at all. They're going into this series with a lot of confidence. I know Tatnall at times looked like they were the top team in the GIAA. In fact, Max Preps had them ranked number 1. I think that Brookstone's pitching can beat anybody, but can Tatnall get up there and be aggressive at the plate? Can they be also patient and work the count? And if you're going to beat Brookstone, you got to hit him in the mouth first immediately. Take game 1 and put Brookstone in the backs against the wall. Brookstone is the defending GIAA champions. They know what it takes to win. But Tatnall might be the most talented team left in the GIAA. And it's just, I think if Brookstone's pitching can match the hitting of Tatnall, I could see Brookstone winning. I think it's going to be a long series. It's going to be a 3-game series, and Brookstone comes out on top.
I think that is it's going to be a tough one. I'm going Brookstone FPD as well. I'm not going to
rematch of last year
state championship. So let's go quick review. We have Citizens taking down Thomas Jefferson, and Westwood beat David Emanuel in the Class 1A. We had Flint River upset by Vidalia Heritage, and Grace Christian beat defending champion Robert Toon. So you got Grace versus Vidalia, Citizens versus Westwood. I think me and Richard both are going Grace Christian and Citizens Christian, the 2 higher seeds left in 1A. In 2A, Gatewood wins, Trinity Christian wins, Southwest Georgia, and Edmund Burke. So all 4 of the top seeds, and I think we're going chalk there. You're going chalk, Southwest Georgia and Gatewood, and I'm going to go Edmund Burke versus Gatewood. In 3A, Frederica, John Millage, Pinewood, and Dominion Christian again, all chalk 1. And I think we're going 1 and 2. Are you picking the upset?
Remember, I picked John Millage.
Okay, so you're
over
picking the upset there.
Picking the upset.
All right, so you got John Millage, Pinewood. I got Frederica and Pinewood. And then in the 4A, FPD Athens Christian, small upset, 5/4. Brookstone over Bullock and Tatnall over Stromrock. We both are going to go 1 versus 2 in that. Again, all these state championships will be at Synovus Park coming up next week. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back from break, Richard was able to sit down and talk to the head coach of Stratford, who's also head soccer coach, Iain Jones, who's also our soccer correspondent throughout the year. They're going to talk about the bracket and more right here on Inside the GIAA, presented by the Beck Center. We'll be right back after this.
GIAA.TV now brings you more live coverage of more sports than ever before. Announcing GIAA.TV Lite with live coverage of swim, wrestling, cheer, and more. GIAA.TV Lite is the next best thing to being there. From one screen, you will hear the crowd, see the action, the scores, the stats, and more. With no play-by-play or instant replays, GIAA.TV Lite is half the price of our regular broadcast. Announcing GIAA.TV Plus. With all of your fan favorites, GIAA.TV Plus now adds volleyball, softball, all-star football, and more, featuring all the play-by-play, instant replays, multiple angles, and more, all for less than the cost of 2 adult tickets to the event. Don't miss 1 second of the action all year long, only on GIAA.TV.
Founded in 1985, the Georgia Independent School Association proudly represents nearly 170 accredited private, independent, and parochial schools across the state. From Tallulah Falls to St. Simon's Island, from Columbus to Augusta, our schools serve over 76,000 students every year. Whether parents are interested in smaller class sizes, more individual attention, a religious-based curriculum, or a safe and structured environment, the GISA provides a strong education, which is the foundation for success. To learn more about the GISA and how they can serve your school, visit us online at www.gisaschools.org.
GIAA.TV now brings you more live coverage of more sports than ever before. Announcing GIAA.TV Lite with live coverage of swim, wrestling, cheer, and more. GIAA.TV Lite is the next best thing to being there. From one screen, you will hear the crowd, see the action, the scores, the stats, and more. With no play-by-play or instant replays, GIAA.TV Lite is half the price of our regular broadcast. Announcing GIAA.TV Plus. With all of your fan favorites, GIAA.TV Plus now adds volleyball, softball, all-star football, and more, featuring all the play-by-play, instant replays, multiple angles, and more, all for less than the cost of 2 adult tickets to the event. Don't miss 1 second of the action all year long, only on GIAA.TV.
And welcome back here to Inside the GIAA. As our next guest, he joins us every week. It's our soccer correspondent. He's also the head boys soccer coach of Stratford Academy. Please welcome to Inside the GIAA, Coach Iain Jones. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Just another busy week trying to finish up the school year with our kids here at the school, but getting ready for state semifinals for us tomorrow night.
Yeah, state semifinals, and there's a quick turnaround because the state championships will be held at Stratford Academy. You are going to be the host school on Tuesday for the girls and Wednesday for the boys. That's starting May the 27th and May the 28th. We're going to start with 2A girls because the number 1 overall seed and the defending champion Central Fellowship, no problem over Heritage. They're going to face a surprise team. Sherwood Christian, the 5 seed, was able to defeat Trinity Christian. So it's going to be Central Fellowship, Sherwood Christian, Westminster Christian, the number 2 seed, able to get by Gatewood, and Georgia Christian, the number 3 seed, able to take down St. George. What are you looking forward to in these semifinal matchups for 2A girls?
I think right now, with Central Fellowship playing Sherwood Christian, I think Sherwood Christian is going to give them a good challenge. But I'll be honest with you, I still think that Central Fellowship on the girls' side is going to be a very tough team to beat. Obviously, like I said, I've watched them play a few weeks ago, and very well coached, very well organized, and they're the type of team that know how to make some good tactical adjustments at halftime if need be. So, I just certainly think Sherwood Christian is going to give them a run for their money. And then on the flip side, I think Westminster Christian. I think them and Georgia Christian, they're going to have a good face-off. And again, I think like I've said the last few weeks, the mental preparation of these teams is really going to come down to who's going to be ready to seize that opportunity to advance to the state championship game.
All right, looking at the 2A boys bracket, the number 1 overall seed, Holy Spirit Prep, who went to the championship last year, talking about them advancing over Trinity Christian, and they are taking on Sherwood Christian. Sherwood Christian on the boys' side, a 5 seed, able to take on and take out the number 4 seed, St. George. Down at the bottom of the bracket, the number 2 seed, Heritage, advances over Westminster Christian, and Central Fellowship was able to defeat Augusta Prep. So what do you like in the 2A boys matchup?
Well, in the top half of the bracket, I'm still going to go Holy Spirit all the way. I think Holy Spirit, very well coached by Sam Walker, but that doesn't mean Sherwood Christian's not going to show up to play. I'm certainly would anticipate a competitive match at least early on, but I still think the Holy Spirit should come out on top on that one. And then on the bottom side of the bracket with Heritage and Central Fellowship, I think you got 2 really good teams. Very well coached teams, and Heritage, you obviously coming down from 3A last year. I still think are going to be a very tough team to beat, but I think I think Central Fellowship has the talent to do that. They're going to have a good game to do so, and they've got a very strong goalkeeper who will keep them in the game. So certainly that's going to be a tight matchup, but certainly I think Holy Spirit will be in the finals, and then it's really a toss-up between Heritage and Central Fellowship.
All right, Coach, let's talk about the 3A girls. The defending champions are Frederica, and they able to get by the 8th seed. Remember, in 3A, the top 4 seeds don't have byes, so it's 1 through 8. Frederica able to take on and take down Brookwood, and they are going to be taking on the number 4 seed, Terrell Academy. John Millage, the upset so far in the tournament, the 6th seed. It kind of reminds me of what the girls' basketball team was doing. They had a Cinderella run. They take on Deerfield Windsor, and they win that game, taking on the number 2 seed, St. Andrews. Coach, is it Frederica, or do you think John Millage can get on a run and possibly win a championship?
Well, I think, I called it a few weeks ago that I think John Millage on the girls' side was certainly going to be a team to be messed with. And if they're on, they've got a couple sisters that play on the team, a senior and I believe a freshman. Man, that's solid, and they did cause some trouble for some of the teams in their district. So I'm not at all surprised by that result for John Millage. Obviously they're going to have to travel down to St. Andrews. I think St. Andrews is a very strong team. 2 of their losses did come to Frederica early in the year with I believe it was 2-1 and 2-0. So if John Millage is on, I think they're gonna really give St. Andrews a run for their money. But I think Frederica's will beat Terrell Academy and advance to the championship game. I don't think anyone can really touch Frederica on that side. But so I would actually I'll go and call Frederica Academy against St. Andrews for the state finals on next Tuesday.
I love it. Now let's talk 3A boys. Same as the 3A girls, only 3 rounds. Quarterfinals actually is the first round. Westminster Schools of Augusta, the defending 3A champions. Remember, they had that nail-biter 3-2 against Holy Spirit Prep. I was there last year, Stratford Academy, and it seems like they're just picking up where they left off. A big win over Lakeview. They will actually be taking on the number 5 seed Valwood that got an upset win over Frederica. Down at the bottom bracket, it's pretty much chalk. St. Andrews gets by Deerfield Windsor, and Brookwood defeats John Millage. Coach, who do you like in the 3A boys bracket?
I mean, I've said it for the last few weeks. Sean Brower has done a fantastic job with Westminster out of Augusta. And, they probably arguably play one of the toughest schedules in the state, regardless of classification. They'll get to the state finals, and I would be shocked if they didn't. And I still don't think there's a team, in this classification, unfortunately, that can compete with Westminster with the talent that they have. And a lot of that comes down to the type of schedule that they have throughout the year. So I think Westminster you will advance over Valwood, and then you St. Andrews and Brookwood. I think that's just going to be a fight. And again, I think mental preparation. I mean, you got St. Andrews having to travel to Brookwood, and that's a good couple 2.5 hour trip if I recall correctly. So. If they can be mentally prepared, I mean, I think at this time of year, I think most schools are starting to finish up. So maybe that mental preparation won't be as difficult. But certainly I think, that's going to be a tight matchup. But I'll say Westminster will be playing Brookwood in the state finals.
All right, Coach. And finally, we're going to talk about the 4A bracket. We're going to start with the girls. As the number 1 overall seed is St. Anne Pacelli. They had no problem over Bullock Academy. They won that match 4-0. And FPD defeated George Walton 9-0. So this is going to be a matchup. Something's got to give. This semifinal matchup between Pacelli and FPD, it's going to be a must watch. And then, of course, you're very familiar and close to the Stratford girls program because you're right there at the same facility. Number 2 seed, no problem over Strong Rock. And a surprise, but not really a surprise because they're the defending champions. The Brookstone Lady Cougars able to get the win against the 3 seed, the Kings Academy. So it's Brookstone taking on the Stratford girls, and you got Pacelli taking on FPD. How you liking these matchups? And is this the matchup we all anticipated, these semifinal matchups? Because it seems like we've got the best of the best here in 4A soccer for the girls.
Yeah, I think I'll have to agree. I think the 4 best teams are in the state semifinals. I mean, Pacelli obviously have had a very, very good year. Again, they're playing one of the most difficult schedules on the girls' side, with a lot of teams out of the Columbus area as well as, going into Alabama. FPD, that's their 4 seed. I mean, but for argument's sake, they could easily be a 2 or 3 seed. I think. FPD's got Bo Matthews, who's going to be who's one of the strongest players in the state. She's going to have a really good game to take on Pacelli, and I think they're going to give Pacelli a run for the money for sure. And I think this might be a tight game, a 2-1 game, and honestly, I think it could go either way. So I don't want to make a bold prediction of who might get that game, but it's going to be a great game to watch. So for any fan, regardless of who you support. And then on the bottom side, I'll tell you, Brookstone, that's not really a surprise to me for them to be back in the state semifinals. They had a very tough schedule for themselves. But again, that's what helps. That can make or break a team. And I think that experience that they've gone through this year has really helped them as they've gone into the playoffs. And Stratford, obviously, at the 2 seed, I think it's going to be, again, another really great matchup. You got 2 coaches that are, that respect one another very, very well. And, it's going to be a tight matchup. But again, I'm not going to make that call. I'm not going to say, which one might win. But I think on this side of with this particular bracket, you're going to have 2 of the best teams that are deserving to be in that state final based on how they finished that state semifinal matchup.
And finally, 4A boys, you're the coach of Stratford Academy. We're going to start at the top of the bracket. The overall number 1 seed was Tallulah Falls. Now, this is an unknown. Great soccer program, but they're coming over from the GHSA. Your team, Stratford Academy, is the defending 4A champions. But, Tallulah Falls had a pretty good record, and they played a lot of tough opponents. They're taking on a Pacelli team that was the runners-up last year. They got by Cristo Rey, and Cristo Rey was playing a man down in that first half. I remember because I watched this game. I called it. And Pacelli was able to get the victory over a very physical Cristo Rey team that had a lot of talent. But Pacelli having to travel up to the northeast corner of Georgia to take on Tallulah Falls, it's going to be a challenge. Do you think that because Pacelli is used to playing in the GIAA, that they can pull off the upset against Tallulah Falls? And what do you like? And before I talk about that, I do want to mention that your team, Stratford Academy, the number 2 seed, no problem over Bullock Academy, is taking on a newcomer to the GIAA. Calvary Christian might have got the upset of the tournament. They go in Alpharetta, and they defeat Fulton Science Academy 3-0. I'm very familiar with Calvary Christian because I'm from Columbus, Georgia. This is a team you got to watch out for. Coach Zach Orr, he does a phenomenal job. They've won championships in the Gaps their first year in the GIAA, and they got a striker by the name of Zach Madrigal, he's just a phenomenal striker. So what do you like in these semifinal matchups for 4A boys, starting with Pacelli and Tallulah Falls?
It's not surprising for Pacelli to be back in the state semis. I think them going to Cristo, them hosting Cristo Rey. I mean, Cristo Rey is a very good side. I think Pacelli's discipline probably is the reason why they were able to hold on and take care of Cristo Rey. And Cristo Rey is a very talented team, but I think Tallulah Falls, that's going to be a very difficult trip for Pacelli. And I think anyone in the bottom bracket was very, very glad not to be playing against either one of those 2 teams, because that's going to be a really good matchup. I think it's going to be a physical matchup. I think both teams, it's going to be solid. But I know Tallulah Falls pretty well from playing them early in the year, and I've had some good conversations with some of their players. That they are pretty hungry to get back to the state or to be back at Stratford, for the state championship game. And I know Pacelli's got some revenge. They want to be back in the finals after losing to us last year and winning it the year before. So I think that's going to be a really good matchup. Again, I think it's too tight to call, but I still think maybe Tallulah Falls has probably got the edge just on some experience, because they do have some solid senior leadership. So, but again, I'm not, as being a coach in this bracket, man, I'm not going to make that call. I'm not going to give bulletin board material to the other team, if we were to make to the finals. And then on the bottom side of the bracket, I'm going to go ahead and say this. This is a bold statement on my part. Calvary Christian are not a 6 seed. They in my opinion, probably could easily be in a 2, 3, or 4 seed. They've got a very, very strong squad. Again, they played a difficult schedule, and I think that Calvary Christian are going to give us a really good test. That's the thing I've stressed to our boys since the playoffs started for us last week. It's all going to be about mental preparation and physical preparation. And we can't look ahead to think, we're just going to be in the finals because we're playing the 6th seed. This is a 6th seed that could easily come in and beat us. I think they could come in and beat a Pacelli, which they did early in the year, and they certainly could come in and give Tallulah Falls for their money. So I think on this side, with this bracket, I think you've got 4 really the 4 best teams in the GIAA 4A on the boys' side that should be playing for us. 2 of those obviously will be playing for the state finals, and all 4 really could be deserving of that.
It's a great opportunity to see soccer. School is out for most schools. I think just about every school had graduation last weekend, so there's no excuse to come down and catch some great soccer. And it's a quick turnaround because we got the state championships May the 27th and the 28th, and you guys are hosting. You guys did a phenomenal job last year. I love your facilities. The GIAA did a great job, and then just having that soccer facility is just incredible. I know you guys are going to do a great job hosting next week. Good luck, Coach, this weekend, and thank you once again for being a correspondent here on Inside the GIAA.
Thanks so much, Richard. We appreciate all the coverage you guys are giving us.
All right, that is our soccer correspondent and the boys' soccer coach of Stratford Academy, Coach Iain Jones. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we got more Inside the GIAA. You don't want to go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
This copyrighted broadcast, presented exclusively on GIAA.TV, is copyrighted by the Georgia Independent Athletic Association, a division of the Georgia Independent School Association, for the private use of our audience. It may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the express written consent of the Georgia Independent School Association. GIAA.TV now brings you more live coverage of more sports than ever before. Announcing GIAA.TV Lite with live coverage of swim, wrestling, cheer, and more. GIAA.TV Lite is the next best thing to being there. From one screen, you will hear the crowd, see the action, the scores, the stats, and more. With no play-by-play or instant replays, GIAA.TV Lite is half the price of our regular broadcast. Announcing GIAA.TV Plus. With all of your fan favorites, GIAA.TV Plus now adds volleyball, softball, all-star football, and more, featuring all the play-by-play, instant replays, multiple angles, and more, all for less than the cost of 2 adult tickets to the event. Don't miss 1 second of the action all year long, only on GIAA.TV.
Founded in 1985, the Georgia Independent School Association proudly represents nearly 170 accredited private, independent, and parochial schools across the state. From Tallulah Falls to St. Simon's Island, from Columbus to Augusta, our schools serve over 76,000 students every year. Whether parents are interested in smaller class sizes, more individual attention, a religious-based curriculum, or a safe and structured environment, the GISA provides a strong education, which is the foundation for success. To learn more about the GISA and how they can serve your school, visit us online at www.gisaschools.org.
This copyrighted broadcast, presented exclusively on GIAA.TV, is copyrighted by the Georgia Independent Athletic Association, a division of the Georgia Independent School Association, for the private use of our audience. It may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the express written consent of the Georgia Independent School Association.
Welcome back, everyone. Thrift Barringer here on GIAA.TV. It's inside the GIAA, and here in just a few moments, we're going to have Tommy Marshall in the Commissioner's Corner. You just got done watching Iain Jones and Richard Holdridge talking about the soccer updates, and can't wait to see how those semifinals play out. Richard, I know you'll be on the call tomorrow for that Pacelli girls semifinal game. That should be a lot of fun, and then we are going to see how the boys play out, and I can't wait to be there in Macon next week.
Yeah, and I know, like, we talk about the GIAA, but obviously people that have watched the show know that we're from Columbus. We're excited. We got the defending champions, Brookstone, out of Columbus. They got the upset against the Keens Academy. They're taking on Stratford Academy, the number 2 seed. Calvary Christian, new to the GIAA, the 6th seed that got the upset against Fulton Science Academy, is taking on Stratford Academy, also the number 2 seed. And when I was talking to Coach Iain Jones, I mean, we were talking about, obviously he's our soccer correspondent, and, he wants to win this match. I mean, they are the defending 4A champions, but also he knows how good Calvary is, that they were underseeded. And I actually think, and here's a theory I have, Thrift, correct me if I'm wrong, I can understand the GHSA schools coming to the GIAA, and in the preseason rankings, they're ranked high because of what they did in the GHSA. But what about the gap schools? When they come into the GIAA for the very first time, they're usually not ranked very high on the preseason rankings because it's an unknown. A lot of people don't know about if they can handle going from the gaps to the GIAA. And I actually think teams like the Keens Academy, Rock Springs, Calvary Christian, who are all gap schools, they were kind of behind the 8 ball. They had to prove themselves in these polls to get up to where they need to be. And that's why Coach Jones thought that Calvary Soccer was underseeded as a 6th seed.
I think that's a great point, and I love how things are able to play out. And I'm excited, again, to see how everything's going to happen here in the next week or so for those GIAA state championships. Again, we're going to have on Commissioner Tommy Marshall here in just a little bit on the Commissioner's Corner, and then we'll wrap up But it's been an excellent show, and we've had a lot of fun. Presented by the Beck Center of Academic and Athletic Success. Thank you to the Beck Center and Roger Beck, located here in Columbus, for all athletes to come and get better. Excellent training facilities, places where you can study. That's why it's academic and athletic. What it represents, not only here in the Columbus, but for the entire state of Georgia. Thank you to Roger Beck, who has been one of the big advocates of the GIAA.
Yeah, and not only they use it just for academic athletics, for physicals, they actually, for these youth sports, because they actually promote youth sports. And they were actually there a couple weeks ago giving out physicals to all these young kids. We're talking 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds that need a physical because they're playing athletic sports. And, the Beck Center was there, and they set up the stations. They had their medical people right there to make sure to give out those physicals. We've seen signing days. I know that Pacelli over there, because that's the school right by the Beck Center, they had one of their basketball players have a signing day there. I mean, they have like a little press conference room. And of course, they have a conference table, because sometimes, and basically they are a service in Columbus, because all the coaches, not just in the private schools in the GIAA, but all the coaches in Muskogee County met at the Beck Center to talk about who's going to be the top players for what we have here in Columbus, the all Chattahoochee Valley team. And so they have that at the Beck Center as well. So great facility. Want to thank Roger Beck really for opening the doors and allowing us to be at the Beck Center to do these inside the GIAA shows, and really just being a service out to the community, not just for Pacelli Sports, but for the community of Columbus as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And so we appreciate Roger Beck. All right, we're going to go ahead and bring him on. He is the commissioner of the GIAA, and we're going to let him get his camera on here in just a second, and then we can bring him on. Tommy Marshall, we're going to talk about being in Stratford, being at Synovus Ballpark. That's going to be, I'm so thrilled that the GIAA gets to showcase their talented athletes there. And without further ado, we're going to bring him on. How are you doing, Commissioner Marshall? Thank you so much for joining us on Commissioner's Corner here on Inside the GIAA. How's everything going with you?
Amen. It's crazy, but it's coming down to the culmination of a great year all around. For all of our sports, it's amazing. Looking at where we started, I was just thinking back to 3.5, 4 years ago when I joined, and we went with the GIAA and rebranded, and the job that you guys have done, the stories that are being told, the excitement that's created in the community, the venues, the competition level. It's just, we're still not there, but we're getting there day by day. And much thanks to you guys for doing this and just keeping the momentum up.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Commissioner Marshall. We love being a part of it. We love that you allow us to be the voices and help promote all the athletes. But we have many spring state championships. You don't have to talk about each one. We already went over the winners and stuff, but I just want you to talk about as a whole how the tennis, individual and team, how the golf state championships, the track and field, lacrosse. We've had a ton have happened so far, and we still got soccer and baseball, but it's been an incredible spring sports championship season so far.
I would agree. And I think one of the biggest things that we talk about, one of the biggest things we talk about is the sportsmanship in the intense competition that's going on. It has been great to watch our teams compete, to watch our athletes compete against each other in track and the different venues where they're individually and team, the camaraderie that's gone on. The level of competition from 3 or 4 years ago has risen unbelievably. And with that, the expectations, I think all of our coaches, our schools have bought in to what we're trying to do. It's all about kids. It's all about communities. It's all about teams. And even spotlighting our coaches. We've tried to do all of that. And these playoffs gives a chance to really show where we come from and really where we're going. So I think it's been a great deal. Just watching them compete day by day, watching teams pick up each other, watch at the track meet, watch athletes congratulate each other, even though it's a team sport, the individual. So, it's a lot more than the scoreboard shows. I think that's the important thing. We see the results of the scoreboard, but we don't see what's going on in the teams and the communities in behind there. You know, there can only be one winner in a lot of these, but the winners are everybody that competes. And you know that too. The lessons that you learn when your teammates become more important than yourself, teams got a great chance to be successful. And I think that's happening across the board. I think it's going to be unbelievable playoffs in soccer, boys and girls. And of course, we have baseball to follow. You mentioned it, Synovus Park. The atmosphere will be great. Competition will be great. It's the end of school, the start of the summer. So we're expecting big things this next week.
Commissioner Marshall, Stratford Academy hosted the soccer championships last season, and they did just an outstanding job. Just talk about just the facilities at Stratford Academy, why this is the best venue to host the GIAA soccer championships.
Well, I know, first of all, the field is unbelievable. Regulation size soccer field, cut, ready to go. I think the biggest thing that we don't really think about is they're going to host these during school. And I think that's important when you open up your campus and you have to do these with the end of school and everything that goes on in that realm. And then you're hosting the soccer championships. I get excited when our schools have a chance to showcase their facilities and their volunteers. It becomes their pride involved, and it's been first class there. You know that's why the coaches decided to do it again, because there's a warm-up field down below that's perfect. They come right up and get on the game field, the stands, the volunteers at concession stand. I mean, all around, it has been a first-class venue for soccer, and especially the facility.
Now talking about baseball, I have had the pleasure of calling some AA baseball games for the Columbus Clingstones, Synovus Park. It is absolutely breathtaking. I was actually there with Tony Morgan and all the GIAA.TV crew. I know you and Stan Whitlock, who was in town I think it was last week or the week before. Y'all were kind of getting the final thoughts and final walkthrough. Talk about why this is such an awesome opportunity to showcase all the athletes in the GIAA in such a phenomenal ballpark in Synovus Park in their first season of the new renovated ballpark.
Well, I think you said at the end, completely renovated ballpark. It looks nothing like it did 2 years ago, as you and I know.
Yeah.
And we were visiting there. You got softball on one side, you got that stadium on the other side. They've invested a lot of money for Columbus, and I think it's one of the best venues. You know, we've been fortunate. We started out my first year down at Grayson and Stadium, Savannah Bananas, and used that field. And that was a treat just being there. The legends, the legacy involved there. I had a great one. Of course, we've been to Augusta to the Green Jackets, even though the weather didn't cooperate that so much that year. We've actually gone in makeup matches, up to Lake Point to finish out some. So Clint and Kent and Robin and Robert do a great job of, during the baseball games and all these playoffs, you've got to change on the run. As the weather changes, as the weather outlook changes, as the teams travel and stay and commit, and the parents try to line up their schedules, it's like a big puzzle. And I don't know if Kent and Clint and Robert and, of course, Robin in the main office and Amy do a great job of trying to change things on the fly. They do a tremendous job. And I think you're going to see that this weekend. Our spring sports are always weather-bound. It's been so much on weather and what's going on.
Right.
And having to change venues, get people to change. We just went through some of that with other things. But we've been very fortunate so far this spring, Lord, I'm not bragging, but we've been blessed with some great weather and timely weather for golf venues, to see the girls in Tallulah Falls, AA and Harbor Point, and then Glenarvan for the AAA. You're not going to find a better facility than that. I mean, it's just perfect. And of course, Randy Stevens and John Drew for tennis. That's a really venue on its own. When you have an individual and team, it just rolls like clockwork. There's no set times. You give them one time and everything rolls off of that time. And so we've been very, very fortunate and blessed in the weather. But I think the culmination of the spring, of the school year, where soccer and baseball, especially where they're hosted, the excitement that's produced is a great way to end the school year.
I 100% agree. We're super excited about it. I can't wait to see you at Stratford next week. And then, of course, we'll be making a quick turnaround after Wednesday late night, calling boys soccer state championship to go and call baseball the next day. But, hey, we love what we do. I love every second of being involved in sports. Thank you so much, Commissioner Marshall, for joining us here tonight. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you guys for everything. Looking forward to it. Let's go. Go GIAA. Come on. Let's go.
Listen, if you don't get fired up with Coach Marshall, there's something wrong with you. That is Coach Tommy Marshall. Thank you so much for him. Thank you to everyone that tuned in. We broke down what happened in the baseball bracket. We broke down what's going on in soccer with Iain Jones. And, of course, we ended it with Tommy Marshall. We are going to have a special show, though. We're going to have a special show this Monday at 8 p.m. It is the ultimate preview show. Yes, on Memorial Day. Everything's winding down at that point. We didn't want to do it on Sunday night because we know it's still part of the Memorial Day weekend. Memorial night, everybody's getting ready for the week. Everybody's getting ready for the state championships, getting ready for work. Perfect time at 8 p.m. We're going to have the ultimate preview show. We're going to break down the soccer state championships and the baseball state championships. That will be all on Monday night here on GIAA.tv, the GIAA Facebook page, and YouTube channel. From Richard Holdridge, I'm Thrift Barringer saying thank y'all so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Inside the GIAA on GIAA.tv.